We're on.
Hello, we're live. Welcome to Write Once, Read Many.
Yeah, welcome,
Uh,
welcome.
uh, yeah,
Um,
howdy everybody.
so I'm getting the link out there now.
All right, great. We got a real treat on this one. Some doozies of chapters, some good shit.
Quite long, actually. These are, chapter 8.5 is the longest chapter up to this point, and,
Mm-hmm.
a lot happens.
Yeah, so very much in such great detail. Um, And to note at the top here, our 8.5 summation is a combo of Vic's work and my work. So thank you, Vic, for doing all that.
Yeah, yeah. And, the art here, we've got the speed draw going, but we can see that it's Rachel. And Greg's in the chat says hi.
Hey,
Um,
Greg.
Um, and let's see here. Uh, oh yes, the audience participation question later on, as a reminder, will be let's talk about the reveal at the end of 8.6, which,
And what a
yeah,
reveal it is.
yeah, we'll just talk about that when we get there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, oh, 2 plus 4 times 5 says, hello, I just got back from Costa Rica yesterday, and today I have a shift starting in 5 minutes, so I doubt I can stay for long. Oh, too bad. And sorry about
Too
the
bad. I
late start then. But we were,
Yeah, I missed you 2 plus 4 times 5.
yeah.
I hope you had fun in Costa Rica.
Hmm. No longer the official international podcast, said. Yeah, true, Vale,
Oh,
true. And hello, Vale. Um,
hello there.
so, yeah, for themes, we didn't specifically write anything, but uh,
I got one. Just because I mean, it's kind of it's a little bit of a character thing too, so we'll get into it in more detail. But uh, resourcefulness was a huge one, I think, in this one, specifically coming right out of Taylor.
fullness. Yeah, I mean that's true. Like capes, not every cape, but lots of capes can like just kind of endlessly pull tricks out of the bag or like create new things on the fly because they have to be versatile. Otherwise, they get bad things will happen to them. Uh,
Totally stumped. And like, yeah, no, I'll bite my tongue. We'll get into it when the time is right.
I was gonna say too. I thought of I wasn't sure how this exactly counts, but like, there's a theme in a lot of the segments of Worm of like people will team up against the biggest threat, and they'll always sort of power match to the best of the abilities of the groups. Like, however big somebody
Hmm.
gets, they'll be able to call in more and more resources to fight them. So it's
Hmm.
um like groups versus strong individuals. Uh,
Yeah. Power
uh,
matching. I mean, that's a good one.
I know, like story wise, why it has to kind of be that way, but it also is like it seems almost instinctive to parahumans that they're supposed to group up to take down whoever the most powerful person is.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, which is something we saw in the previous chapters with the ABB and all that,
Oh, hey,
and
Vic.
Empire 8 and all that. Oh, is
You're
that
only
Vic?
you're only actually like 2 or 3 minutes in, so that's pretty good.
Oh, well, hello. Parahumans are full zombicom. The only limit is yourself.
Oh yeah.
Truly inspirational.
Hmm. I mean, that's why we believe in such ideals as being a parahuman. Um,
Hmm.
but I think we can skip into the thing here. For 8.5. Oh, Vale says, so now's a great time to say the art today is excellent. Yeah. I stared deeply into this art earlier, so
Yeah, it is. It's an emotional one. That's a big moment. Excellent job, Vic.
captures the grief and rage perfectly.
That it does. That it
It's
does.
Vic in disguise. Oh my
I was
word.
gonna ask. I was like, who is this? The uploader.
Yeah. Um, I assumed with the
All right.
timing and the TYTY, I mean that's felt like
Classic
Vic.
Vic.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, do you want to start in, or do you think I should?
Go ahead and kick us off.
Sorry, I'm such a Chris. Yeah. Vale, no, it isn't. There's no Vic in the name. Scam. Yeah. Lady Photon.
Okay.
Oh,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Lady Photon and her daughter Laser Dream hotly land by Armsmaster and Taylor. You can guess who wrote that. Uh, While taking them in, Taylor notes that they look as if they've seen multiple of their family members brutally murdered in the last hour. It reminds Taylor of how she looked and felt when her mom had died. Um,
Yeah. Lady Photon lifts Armsmaster up with a force field and tells Laser Dream to take him. Laser Dream says she'll take the girl and help fight Leviathan. Taylor is, of course, offended at being referred to without her name, but decides to keep it quiet. They look at her, and Taylor feels like she's supposed to say something, but doesn't know what will be appropriate. And this is a quote from the text. Let's go get that. I stopped, both because I suddenly felt that something like motherfucker was too crass, and because I wanted to bend down to pick up Armsmaster's halberd, the one with the disintegration blade, grabbing the pull of it with my hand. Let's go get him, I stated, lamely. Uh,
by two
and I
plus four
noted
times
that.
five.
Oh,
Oh, he's just leaving.
oh yes, have a lovely day. 2 plus 4 times 5.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Yeah, and that little quote there is a very classic Taylor example of sort of her point of view being both, I guess, hyper analytical in real time, but also extremely self-critical. It's, you know, in that very important moment, she's kind of like, "Fuck, I totally fucked up. I bombed."
Yeah, like she had a. Oh no, I have socially faux pas with these.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's like the biggest
yeah,
thing on her mind.
exactly. Yep.
Um,
Vale says Taylor demonstrating her social skills in such a relatable way. Absolutely.
yeah, and Vic had said earlier, well, Taylor does talk about how hot they are. Um, yeah.
Um, yeah. Laser Dream picks up Taylor like a newlywed and holds the halberd for her. Taylor feels like flying is tainted by the mood and the cold rain, and is a bit scared that she'll be dropped since Laser Dream doesn't have super strength. She says, I resigned myself to being cradled. There was no dignified way to be carried. She had morning breath, a strangely mundane thing. She'd likely been woken up at 6:30 in the morning by the sirens, hadn't had time to brush her teeth or eat before coming here. I had to pull that quote because I really like the very subtle observation there. Like amidst all of this, she is really taking a moment to notice like everything around her to the best of her ability.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Uh,
man, Greg says, and with half her family dead, it's also morning breath.
Oh God. Oh
And
dear
then
God, great.
Vic had said a bit ago, dealing with Taylor's awkwardness is the last thing these morning women need. The fact that she can smell the morning breath through her mask shakes my head.
So much. Is that wait? Okay, excuse me. Is that shake my head or is
It
that
is
so
when
much hate?
it shakes my head when Vic is doing it.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. I felt like a really old man for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad it wasn't the bugs that noticed with bug interest. Agreed, Vale.
Mm. Um.
um, yeah, feel free to carry on.
Yeah, since Taylor's power is super strong today, she's able to better track Leviathan and uses Laser Dream's armband to communicate where he is and is heading. A tidal wave rolls in, dampened by the ice that Eidolon blasted at the shore. The wave still makes it half a mile into the city, fucking up even more buildings. Luckily, Taylor is safe in the air, and the armband doesn't announce any casualties. They pass over the Weymouth Shopping Center, which has folded in on itself. Taylor's freaked out by the idea that she'd been to this mall 100 times, and it's just gone like that. Also, I did like the description of Leviathan had just like physically run through the place, and he hadn't slowed down while he ran. You know, he didn't bother
Oh
to do
yeah,
like any special move. He's just like just running.
just gonna keep on trucking.
Yeah. But
Leviathan starts moving downtown, which is also where the shelters are. Taylor recalls that many people skipped the drills and might be fucking up the shelter capacities. She imagines her dad arriving late and being turned away to find another shelter, having to go downtown instead. In harm's way?
yeah.
Sorry,
While the
that's just the
girlies
way
are
it's written.
exactly. While the girlies are flying through downtown, Leviathan halts. Taylor announces this to the armband, and Chevalier says they're teleporting forces in. They arrive at Leviathan's location, and Taylor is familiar with the area, as this is where Coil's base is located underground. And I know it's not mentioned here, but there's a background element of like, this is when Trickster is calling Coil when he's recalling that happening.
Mm, yeah.
Um, Parian is there, sicking a trio of stuffed animals on Leviathan while simultaneously sewing a new one using her power. Taylor's confused that if she has telekinesis, why would she use something as unsturdy as cloth, and wonders if Parian is one of those that thinks their power is magic.
Um, Harm's Way is the worst name for a street ever. Couldn't agree more. Never go to that shelter. Also, Trickster Hart could not all agree more. I hate his outfit, but otherwise, Trickster's like, get it.
Yeah. So I think we are here.
Yep. Browbeat dies by Leviathan. Sad. Parian or Parian?
Parian.
Parian, thank you. Parian gets downed by his after image,
Even
and
if
all
we're
the
wrong.
stuffed animals deflate, even if we're wrong. The crossbow gal named Flechette, Purity, and Shadow Stalker all fire at Leviathan, and he's endarkened by Gru to help for a moment. Taylor pulls some bugs together into his semi-human figures and has them move towards Leviathan to serve as distractions.
Vic says, "Whoa, don't talk about my boy like that," when talking about his outfit. Did I have something to say about Browbeat? I will talk about that later. Perry Ann is how I say it in my head. The audiobook uses Purian or
Parian.
something like that. Well,
Yeah, it's weird.
we'll go with Parian.
Parian seems good. The way it's spelled, that's how it feels.
Because even if we're wrong in an easy way.
We're wrong together.
Mm-hmm.
And permanently.
And permanently wrong. Did you already read this?
No,
I was
you're right there, yeah.
The crossbow ladies do some cool crossbow stuff pretty successfully, but Shadowstalker gets taken down by a metal piece of Hookwolf's body that Leviathan casually tosses at her. Many heroes and villains are attacking, and Taylor notes, "We had the upper hand, but that wasn't necessarily a good thing." And then Vic had noted that this is a parallel to how Taylor doesn't have good days because she's full of dread waiting for the ball to drop with the bullies.
Taylor sends bugs to swarm into Leviathan's eyes, blinding him. But he starts freaking out and takes down a few folk. Flechette lands a choice shot, and Leviathan goes as if to topple forward, but drives his claw into the ground, and things begin to rumble. The capes know something bad is happening and begin to cry out and flee. This next bit starts getting intense. The ground beneath him sinks and fills with water. The crashes and divots are growing into a crater, spreading past Taylor. The ground she's on descending. Taylor screams for help and falls back. She's submerged, can't get to the bottom or the top. She feels out with the halberd, and a hand grabs it, pulling her out of the water. Laser Dream is holding Taylor and a passed out Parian and hurriedly flies to a nearby rooftop to lighten her load. Unfortunately, soon after the building begins to collapse. Laser Dream grabs the girls again. As she hauls the girls back up, Taylor sees Laser Dream's armband flashing.
Yeah. So Vale had said the browbeat scenario as a whole outside the story made me a bit sad just because of how much it bothers Wildbow to have memes like that persist. Feel like they're mean spirited.
Oh.
Okay. I have no idea what the full outside context is because I'm not like a person who does fandom stuff really.
Yeah.
Greg says, no lake, no worries. Leviathan can make his own. Yeah, makes its own lakeys. Um,
Exactly. William, real quick, can you carry us on for a minute? I gotta plug
y-
my headphones in real
yeah,
fast.
yeah, no problem.
Thank
Taylor feels through her bugs Leviathan leap 200 feet in the air, lashing his after image in every direction. The armband begins to announce deaths. Laser Dream goes to set down Taylor and Parian again, to which Taylor argues. Laser Dream says either they pause or she drops them, so Taylor backs down. The armband calls Laser Dream over to one of the shelters since, like the entire fucking city, they were about to get wrecked by some water. Taylor, still concerned for her dad, insists on tagging along, despite the major inconvenience it is to haul her bug ass around. Vale says every time a character would be revealed in certain ways, there would be threads and comments saying it must be Browbeat because he originally just exited the story. Wildbow asked to stop, it didn't, so he wrote in the chapter to stop. So he wrote that in the chapter to stop it. All right. Well, I always thought it was like neat as fuck that like theoretically he could use his power to get stomped and just you know not dead. Like be
Oh
like,
yeah,
wow, that's pretty cool. So
pretty dang cool.
I always thought that I mean, I can see the why it would be annoying if people just kept bringing it up, but from my perspective, as a not reading all the comments fan and not commenting fan, um, then it was Robbie. It was cool when he was alive.
Yeah. Also, I got headphones. I'm back.
Mm-hmm. So Vic says bug ass, and also he killed him. Uh, Vale says it went on for
It went on
years.
for years.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as we all
Okay.
know, fandoms are the worst. All of them.
Classic. All of them. Every single one. Never met a fandom that I like. Um, is that where we're at? There we. Where you're
Well,
cursor is?
we're at this would be where if you want to start reading.
Okay. So they leave Parian and drop a ping for her. As they fly over the crater, Taylor senses Leviathan swimming at high speed in the newly formed lake, potentially fighting Eidolon, or Eidolon, whichever you prefer. Capes gathered around the edge, forming battle lines. Fewer and fewer bugs remain on Leviathan. Um, they arrive at the shelter as the present capes are trying to open the door to the shelter, unaware of the state of things inside. In a classic bout of self deprecation, Taylor muses how useless she is because bugs and crabs ain't got shit on this door. But then she remembers her true power friendship. No, it's resourcefulness. Time to put Arms Master's halberd to work. Taylor's arms are not having a great time right now, so she hands it off to one of the capes who is impressed by how effective it is.
Um,
As if she ever talks about the. I think she did mention crustaceans.
well,
So,
we
you
can
know.
see
Also, just in
Ross.
case you don't mention it later, Strider dies here. R.I.P. Strider. Yes, R.I.P. Strider for sure.
She
I
do
bet she can
mention,
control
she
some.
says there weren't even many crabs or other crustaceans I could employ
See,
in the water around us.
see,
And the ones that did exist were small. Small.
small boys. Also,
Little
yeah,
shrimps.
can she control some fish? Like jellyfish even? I don't think so. Like I feel like they're a little too
I feel
distant
like I
from
feel like
bug type.
maybe she could. She just never encounters them because she
Never
can
just chooses
control.
not to.
There is a situation in which she senses krill later. Not in
Hmm.
this arc, but spoilers
Hmm.
in a later portion where Taylor's still alive.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know I'm the worst for spoiling that Taylor's still alive in later chapters.
I can't believe you would say that. Uh,
Yeah.
How alive she is. Jellyfish def don't have brains. Jellyfish are almost certainly out of scope. Yeah. Crabs she can control because they're basically brainless, right? Uh, do I want a latte? Oh, sorry, sweetheart. By the way, my wife is here. Yes, I super want a latte. Please do that for me. You know what I like. I love you. Thank you. Um, yeah. Uh, so anyway, Leviathan's location is unknown as the capes begin cutting through the door.
Sorry, I'm just
Okay.
rereading the conversation. I bet she can control some fishies too. It's just it's just funny. They just have a giant ass nervous system. So, I would. Oh, I would like a latte, Sam. Says Vic. Yeah, yeah.
Jellyfish do not have brains. Instead, they have a basic set of nerves throughout their bodies. The nerves can detect touch, temperature, and salinity in their tentacles.
I thought
Wow.
if you got
Thank you,
enough
Vin.
jellyfish together on a colonial style jellyfish, that it basically was a big brain.
It's big brain for sure.
Anyway, so
Okay.
yeah.
So, you want to pick us up?
Yes. Where were we?
Right here. Yep.
Yeah, okay. They break through. Laser Dream and the Halberd wielding cape together to create a safe passage for both the water and the people trapped inside. Taylor does some recon with her bugs, noticing the similarities of the shelter to Coil's hideout. The water was leaking inside, and roughly 20 people were already injured. The rest of the were working to stop the flow of water, moving sandbags about. The evacuation begins, and Taylor immediately looks for her father. Old Danny Boy is nowhere to be found, but we do have one surprise guest, Mr. Goddamn Gladly. It upsets Taylor on a primal level, despite the destruction of the city happening around her in a particularly shitty but loosely justified move. Taylor notes that Gladly being with someone bothered her because she doesn't think he is even worthy of having love in his life after his betrayal back at the school with the bullies. Wow.
Yeah, right. Sorry,
Yeah.
that was a bit of a mouthful of a sentence.
But it
Um,
is, I think it was good.
Thank you, thank you. And yeah, here's the quote from the text. It was like this woman was someone who maybe liked him, heard his side of things, validated his self-perception of being this excellent, cool teacher. A part of me wanted to explain that to that woman that he wasn't. That he was the worst sort of teacher who helped the kids who already had it easy and dropped the fucking ball when it came to those of us who needed it. It was surprising how much of that chance meeting bugged me.
How much it bugged her? Um, Vic says, yeah, because why the fuck would her dad be there? She's being a little cray. Taylor is angry. Angry Taylor is quite scary, says Val. Um,
Hmm.
Greg's saying that Leviathan could never kill
Leviathan
Gladly.
could never kill gladly.
Real
Real
recognize the
recognizes
real.
real. Fuck yeah.
I wish Taylor
Uh,
walked up to this lady and was just like, or just was like, this guy sucks.
see, that would have been great in the
Just
middle
in the
of
middle
all
of
of
all
it, just
this.
being like,
You
this guy
know this guy
fucking
sucks, right?
blows. You know he's the worst.
Have you met this guy?
um, Not much time to stay distracted because the big lizard TM arrives with destruction in tow. Taylor hadn't noticed his approach due to how few of her bugs were left in his wounds. The two who helped get the door open were just called out deceased by Laser Dream's armband. The
Ooh.
crowd begins to panic. Laser Dream goes down. Hundreds of people are trapped at Leviathan's mercy. He starts getting to work with the wreckage. The civilians' deaths aren't reported on the armbands, but it's basically a slaughterhouse in this place.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Um,
crazy. But
yeah, and it does make you think, like, within this timeline of the battle so far, like, how many people have actually fucking died beyond the capes? Because it
because I mean,
is
like
likely a
maybe
bunch.
when he did that lake earlier, that already fully destroyed a shelter or whatever. For all we
Right.
know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like that could have been a couple hundred people or even more. Like it's
Yeah,
pretty
because there's
likely.
hundreds of people in here, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I believe so. A little over 100 or so.
yeah. So, well,
Uh,
I think the chapter says hundreds.
oh, okay. You're probably right. You're probably right.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but the Greg says on a scale of 1 to 10, how slaughterhouse would you say this is?
I wouldn't say it's 9. I wouldn't quite say that.
Anyway.
I...
So once again, Taylor
um,
notes Mr. Gladly, but turns her back on him the same way he had done to her. She's got bigger priorities, and frankly, fuck that guy. Knowing what a real cool teacher looks like, she opts to save Laser Dream instead, flipping her over in the pool of water to stop her from drowning. After which, she retrieves the halberd and calls back to the shelter from Impel's armband. I gotta say, I think a lot of people read that scene and took it to mean she was like just leaving and running away. And I'm not even sure how I felt when I first read it, but it didn't seem like she would do that, and then she didn't. But like, I guess a lot of people have that read.
I think it was just one of those things where like she saw him and was like, that dude is super not my first fucking priority right now. There's like I could be doing anything else in this room. Because yeah, she doesn't like leave. She just goes to
Yeah.
another
Okay. See,
part
so
of
so
the
Vale also
shelter.
thought that she was leaving. Um.
Yeah, I kind of it feels more like she's more like mentally turning her back on him than anything, being like, yeah, he's not going to be the focus of this adventure.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, he does die here. Um.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh.
Womp womp.
We got eye roll from the crowd for that Greg joke. Wait, no good, no good. Uh, but do you want to jump in here?
Yes. Backup would be slow as all the best teleporters are dead. Taylor takes this as a challenge to be better than Mr. Stupid Ass Gladly and takes some action to assist the civilians trapped with the beast. Unfortunately, the best she can do is to move slowly around the big lizard TM. She's caught by the swish of Leviathan's tail, water pouring down on top of her. She ain't gonna let that rain on her parade though. TM. Because boy howdy, Armsmaster's halberd makes for a great ass stabber. She rakes the blade along his tail and where his ass would be should he have one. Uh,
Okay, let's stop for a second.
okay.
First of
Now,
all, you have written
which
the
part
greatest.
drew
You
your
have written the
attention?
greatest couple sentences that we've. Anyway, but I also wanted to just say to what Vale had said. Wait, does Gladly die here? I didn't think he did. He does die here. We get like semi
Yeah, a little bit.
confirmation later, and then like real confirmation from outside the story, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a chapter where there's like an online forum and people are talking, and there's a person who is Gladly's girlfriend going, "My boyfriend died. He was a cool guy."
She's like, he was like such a cool guy. All of his students said, wow, that's a cool teacher.
Yeah, yeah,
Also, from Vale, story recap so far Taylor, 3, groins, 0.
very true.
Yeah, she's got a bit of a fixation, I think. Um,
Shockingly effective.
Shocking. Please.
Shockingly effective, this hampers the movement of Leviathan's tail. He swipes a claw, reacting to the pain. Though less effective than is usual, the water still knocks Taylor back against the broken shelter door. She gets up and heads to the street, beating Leviathan due to his chonkiness, slowing him down in the tight quarters of the shelter. She readies some buggy decoys to distract him as he emerges from the shelter. With less agility, he destroys the echoes, sending an echo of water right at Taylor.
Mm-hmm. Um, from Vic, Wildbow couldn't give Taylor a tinker on her team because she would have killed all three Endbringers in the third arc. Yeah, for real. Even if it was Kid Win.
Greg, that is the ultimate
Especially.
roast. Vale says, I completely missed that. In my headcanon, he lived was because of the Wildbow what if reply from someone asked, what if Taylor died here? It never clicked for me.
Yeah, I mean, it is, at least in this moment, it's not like a big focal point at all. But yeah, and I totally forgot about the chapter you're talking about, William, where we see his girlfriend later.
Yeah. Remember when there's like online, like it's a whole chapter of just forum posts and
Oh,
chat
yeah,
threads.
okay.
And, like you're just seeing like board style messages where you're seeing like 10 of the messages from a really long thread or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay, got it. Um, anyway, it hits her dead on. Hard as concrete and fast as a car. She compares the pain to Bakuta's grenades. This was much, much worse.
A
Stuck
full
face down in a
Leviathan water echo right to the face.
dude. Yeah, that sounds horrendous. Which we know has already like killed lots of people so far. So that speaks to the severity.
Mm-hmm.
Stuck face down in the water, unable to push herself over with her good arm and unable to move or feel her legs, she begins to think, well, of course this would happen. Obviously. Duh. Taylor begins to inhale water, only seeing the mud and dirt beneath her through her swim goggle style mask. We get an oddly descriptive detailing of her goggles to note that she can, in fact, see, this taking place with her full prescription. Although I do really like the quote after that. It disappointed me on a profound level, knowing that this might be the last thing I ever saw. Disappointed me more than the idea of dying here, odd as that was. I don't know, just an interesting thought from Taylor.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I kind of like all the little details about, like, she's like the silt and the grit and all, like, all
Mm-hmm.
this crap she's saying. But,
Yeah.
Leviathan scampers off on all fours. I just love that the chapter literally describes him at one point as scampering.
Yes.
It's
He
delightful.
scampers back.
What a little scamp. Um, Taylor's still drowning, but tracks his movements 2 blocks away. Bitch arrives and pulls Taylor from the water, but isn't focused on her. She's sending her full force of dogs after Leviathan, looking on with pain and fury. Um, Actually, I kind of, I think that Bitch arrived, but she mostly engaged because she did notice Taylor. Because Leviathan
Mm,
darting off, I think that's indicating that like he's starting to like acknowledge that he'll need to fight like the pack, and then
right.
because he doesn't run very far for him, he runs like the equivalent of a couple little strides.
Right.
Um, and then he starts fighting them. So they
Yeah,
sort
I
of
guess I,
draw him
I didn't
away,
think
and
of it.
then she grabs Taylor. You know.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's a much more clear reading. Um, yeah, and it's interesting because a couple times throughout that little bit, it notes like she is not being particularly ginger. She is in like full fight or flight mode,
Right. For sure.
which is
Um.
classic Rachel anyway.
Yeah. Did you want to pick up? I think here.
Yeah. So the dogs kept him busy, distracted, but are no match for Leviathan. He tears through them, and Bitch howls. I really love every time they have her do that, just because she's like this guttural scream, like connecting with the dogs, just letting out all the pain and anger. It's very good.
Mhm.
Um, Bitch carries Taylor with her, Taylor noting that she thinks her back is broken. And
Yeah,
again,
she's
another quote
startled
from
to see
Snatch.
Taylor when she sags, you know?
Yes, yeah, she's like, oh, holy shit. Um, the calm tone of the words was eerie, even coming from my own mouth to my own ears, disconcertingly out of place with the frenzied, savage tableau. Yeah, she's like, I don't know, Taylor, even for being in so much pain and all that stuff, yeah, she's like emotionally like flatlined, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, from Vale, my unconfirmable headcanon is Rachel is just in her territory. The fight came here because of the general direction Leviathan takes, which is talked about a lot later in the story. Yeah, her getting in the fight. Actually, I mean, I
Because
could see
the
that
reason,
take, but I don't.
yeah, the reason I kind of don't think that's maybe how I see it is just because she agreed to the others to that, like, because they all four agreed that they would join against an Endbringer. So I think the
Hmm.
fact that she didn't communicate well with the others and didn't get an armband or anything, that just sort of makes sense for her. you know?
Right. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna help, but I'm gonna help however it makes sense for me to help. I'm not gonna do your dumb whole thing.
Right, right. That's kind of how I see it. But I mean, I see
Yeah.
why that would be like a good. Because that would make sense if they were just in her territory, why she would power up 8 different dogs and stuff.
Right.
Um, but like, for instance, Angelica was at the loft, and I think if she was gonna try and like make a stand somewhere, she'd have Angelica like with her, I guess, if she had
Hmm.
Brutus and Judas. You see what I'm
Absolutely. Yeah.
saying? Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah. It's this scene for Rachel is so rough. As Leviathan continues his onslaught on the dogs, bitch screams, "Kill! Kill!" Uh, with only 2 dogs left, who should arrive on the scene but the man, the myth, the legend, not that legend, Scion, baby. Uh, no impact, no noise, just the golden beaming boy. Leviathan doesn't even notice.
yeah.
Uh, oh God, I
I gotta
love how
call
they
out before we move on
yeah.
that Scion, real bastard here. He like even here doesn't bother to save the 2 dogs.
Nope, doesn't give a shit. He is you know, he's got bigger priorities, I guess, but he could have had he wanted to at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Um yeah, and it's very disappointing because the next thing is with only two or no, sorry, dispatching the last 2 dogs, Leviathan is struck by Scion in the back with a golden beam. So yeah, I mean to be honest, Scion's almost using the dogs as fodder so he can, I don't know, get a better shot or something.
Well, it's because he doesn't
Um,
even consider that he should be saving them. I think.
yeah, yeah, it's not even a consideration, I suppose. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, he takes a moment
Um,
to telepathically sneer at Eidolon. He does do that.
hmm.
Yeah, that's right, Vic.
And yeah, and Vale, I agree. I was gonna say I love how Scion fights silently, no noise, no impact. Like it's so eerie. It I don't know if you watched what's the fucking movie? The Jordan Peele joint with the aliens.
Oh, I haven't seen it, but I know what you mean. It's called Nope.
Why can't I yes, yes, nope. The way the creature worked
Vic also
in that
knows, but has seen it.
good. It's a great, great movie. Highly recommend. But I loved it. Reminded me of the movement of that alien, like as it's flying. It doesn't seem to like be affected by, I don't know, like wind or anything like that. Like it just seems to be silently, almost unnaturally, just shifting through the space rather than interacting with the space as much.
Hmm. Greg
Cool.
says to repeat his joke from earlier. Oh, thank goodness! Finally, some expendable combatants. But
Classic Wildbow.
but yeah, I don't even think of that Scion's like thinking of like setting up. He doesn't have any stakes in anything, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I think you're probably right. It's not
What good
like you
is a
said.
restaurant
It's
with
not
no
even a
stakes in it?
consideration.
As the old stupid comic goes.
Stupid.
Um
Um, where are we?
I figured you'd like
So
the Watchmen memes.
Leviathan. um, so yeah, Leviathan struck by signing the back with a golden beam. You want to pick us up from there?
Yeah, Leviathan strikes back but appears to be ineffective, knocked back by the hero once more. Scion knocks a building on top of Leviathan. And he kind of um he has this thing he can do where when he hits something it like leaves behind some of his power and kind of like destroys that slowly. So he did that to the building sort
Hmm.
of so casually that we didn't see it, and then the building crumbles the correct direction to fall onto Leviathan. So
Yeah, it's just like a little entropy beam or some shit like that. It's cool.
yeah. So it's like a really weird little aspect of his power, but
Hmm.
yeah. So his footsteps disrupted the water, or settled the disrupted water, with each step. So whenever Scion walks around, then it sends out like a small ripple that makes everything else settle down. And in the
Hmm.
words of this little aside, dope, 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 dope.
Dope,
Um,
dope, 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 dope.
Scion clearly has the upper hand, and doubly so with the assistance of Eidolon, who appeared in the sky to set up some ice walls, and he seems to be supporting the Golden Boy.
TM.
Oh.
After knocking back the big lizard, TM, he scans the scene, landing on Eidolon's face, the first most powerful hero looking at the fifth. Taylor notes the expression on Scion's face. His expression was so hard to read. I knew now what people had meant when they said that they thought his face was a mask, a facade. Though it was expressionless, though there was nothing I could point to explain why I felt the way I did. Somehow I sensed disgust from him, like nobility looking at dog shit. Just fucking love that description of yeah. I mean, I can very vividly sort of picture it, um, and it just calls back to exactly what you said. It's like he's not really considering any individual here beyond how it may impact what he's going to be doing.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I also think that I mean it's not expounded upon here, but he has some specific issues with Eidolon, let's say.
yes.
So.
That yeah, that's an exciting bit of detail for later.
Mm-hmm.
Scion blasts Leviathan again, knocking him into the air, only to meet him mid-air to strike again. And another quote from the text. Everything about Scion and his actions was utterly silent. His movements or attacks didn't even stir the air. Only the effects, Leviathan striking the water, the breaking of ice, generated any movement, shudders, or sounds.
Mm-hmm.
As
Greg says
Greg said,
Sion is
yeah.
clearly bullying Eidolon. He looks at him like Emma looks at Taylor.
Oh my god, for fucking real though.
I'm not sure what it was exactly. Oh, Vic said true, but initially misspelled and said try, and I was thinking like,
Ah.
is that Sion roasting Eidolon? Just try.
Just try, bro.
Jesus.
Just try. Just fucking try.
Grow up.
Get a job. Just fucking try.
So Eidolon continues to keep Leviathan unstable while Scion uh, dotes out the heavy hits one after another. I think doles maybe. Yeah, he doles out some
Either
heavy
or.
hits.
He dotes him out.
Yeah, he really dotes on Leviathan. Uh,
He loves it.
his beams curve in the air to strike the big lizard TM, even as he tries to evade. Um, in the words of Vic, mid. Eidolon's so mid. Um, Leviathan's wounds begin to glow with golden light from Scion's beams, the ruined flesh beginning to dissipate like burning ash. The wound at his throat does the same, opening even further. And there's a little bit of detail on that words that it's like fist shaped because he got punched by a scion fist. Just
Mm-hmm.
expanded out from there.
Yeah. Leviathan attempts to send another batch of tidal waves, but Scion negates them with ease, managing to land another strike with a third beam. Though not as destructive, a large amount of water still reaches the city, giving Leviathan the opportunity to swim away back to the coast. But Scion ain't having it though, and gives chase. Eidolon follows. Both of them now out of sight of Taylor, Bitch, and the wounded left at the shelter.
A teleporter arrives, and Bitch drags Taylor over to them, perhaps not as gingerly as would have been appreciated. Both Taylor and Laser Dream are teleported away. Oh, and as a note, the teleporter only arrives because of Laser Dream's armband. They don't know that Taylor or Bitch are here at all.
Oh, right, right.
She's placed on a stretcher, the hospital full of sound and panic, pain and the goings on of machines, doctors and nurses. She's placed in a curtained area and quickly hooked up to various monitors, and she tries to communicate with the nurses, but they all ignore her beyond what is necessary.
A PRT officer accompanies the nurse, asking questions, holding a gun to Taylor as they deem whether or not she is a danger. They ask if she is a villain, and Taylor protests the importance, persisting about her broken back. She asks about Tattletale, essentially telling them she's a villain without directly doing so. The PRT officer cuts both of Taylor's, or excuse me, cuffs, Jesus Christ, cuffs both of Taylor's arms to the hospital bed,
He
despite her
cuts her up!
protests. He cuts her arms off, just right then and there.
We thought she was
he
home
cuffs
free.
her arms. The real danger was the government. Anyway, despite her protest due to her broken arm, she tries one last time to get answers, but is ignored and left chained up in pain and alone. That's our summation of,
That's the
8.5. That's the chappy.
Before we move on to final chapter thoughts, I did want to also point out that this could go in the themes section. That it's like normal societal dysfunction. Dysfunction. Because it's like Greg has pointed out in previous chapters. This is like the same kind of real world problems that happen with like the treatment of people and like the inefficiencies of systems and like we don't want to get sued. Like all of those details sort of feed together into that theme, I think.
Very much so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. A lot of it is like these. I don't want to say arbitrary because they all have, I guess, justifications and reasonings behind them. But there's so much bureaucracy and unnecessary steps in between. I don't know, people getting help, I guess.
And like they all
actual problems being solved.
All of the factors at play combine to end up with Taylor like escaping and running away. Whereas if they had talked to her, or if they had treated her better, or like if then like it had to have all of these things. It's kind of like in Bruges, where my theory about the whole movie is just that if the Colin Farrell character had done like kind of the right thing like once throughout the movie, then he wouldn't have ended up in the situation where he died. Like, he had to do the wrong thing so many times in a row.
Right. And he did a really good job at doing the wrong thing.
He really did.
We're proud of him for that.
Just like this PRT officer, just like the, nurses who won't talk to her. They all did, just a step along the way.
They're all doing their jobs.
Poop. Vale had said, the guard who purposely hurts her is the worst, one of the people I hate most in the story. And I could definitely see that. It's the kind of thing where, like, people on Taylor's side would do similar things to later on, and she kind of compromises to work with people because she works with like the shitty coil mercenaries who even after they're working more directly for Tattletale, I'm sure are not the greatest. Um,
Oh.
so
Not
so
ideal.
so we see her go from like the victim of like this harsh treatment to even the person directly doling it out and stuff later on. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so there's stuff to be mined there as we see that play out. Um,
yeah, absolutely.
and we'll remember this terrible gourd. Um, we'll know.
Yeah.
So final chapter thoughts. This chapter's crazy. This chapter is nearly an hour long in the audiobook. It is the longest chapter we've seen so far.
Hmm.
Tons of cool capes get murked. We
Yeah, tons of them.
see Scion for the first time, and he lives up to the hype. He's not just like Eidolon strength, where he's like, "Oh, I could do pretty good against the Endbringer for a few seconds." He's like, "I like visibly dominate this guy in combat in single one-on-one, and it's really a question of it if he can run away, even though he's the fastest guy aside from me."
Right. Yeah, and I don't know, this whole chapter, like just from a writing perspective, in terms of like illustrating a battle, I thought it was so fucking. I mean, this whole like batch of chapters in this arc are, but it's really fucking well done, jumping between like the use of the armbands and Taylor's perspective and how she's using the bugs versus her actual like I don't know, direct POV and her dialogue. I think it's all interwoven so fucking well that like not only was this like a really long chapter and a really descriptive chapter, but it was also super, super just engaging.
Yeah, and there's like so many like interesting moments with powers and like there's obviously we have tons of character moments between like the laser dream stuff at the beginning
Hmm.
and with Lady Photon, and you got Bitch's whole thing when she joins the fight and then loses all the dogs, and
Right.
there's a lot of stuff like that. I'm trying to
Hmm.
think other good character moments, just scrolling up and down without actually like just reading out from our character section.
Yeah.
The Gladly stuff, she's there's just all
Right.
these crazy moments that bring it back. She's obsessed with the idea that her dad is in the thing, even though there's like no way he's in that one. She's
Yeah,
just
there's like
she's
no
just losing it.
evidence of that being the case.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, like, she's clearly like not really thinking in normal terms.
No, no, not at all. And despite all of that, is still like shockingly effective in the moments when she does have the opportunity to act. Like
Right,
yeah,
and
I don't
she's
know.
kind of making a good, like, in a way, a good name for herself in these fights, because like in every fight she's in, she like coordinates in some way and like leaves an impression
Hmm.
that if you kind of like do what she says, you're gonna win.
Right, exactly. And she like,
Not that
you
like
know,
it's
it
perfect in this fight, but.
well, but I mean, and I think this is an 8.4, but like when she sort of becomes the main cape tracking Leviathan's movements, like that's a huge fucking deal in the scope of a battle like this. And for, she's got some recognition now, very minimally, but she's largely an unknown entity to most of these people. So like just to see this random, I don't know, not especially like intimidating looking person just kind of showing really good command over the situation is fucking incredible.
This weird bug who hunches over. Um, I just love when
Vale
Lisa's
says,
looking at her and she's like all fucked up in
"Oh
Eight
yeah,
Point
oh god,
X or whatever, and she's just like standing up
Jesus
with the water
Christ."
knocking her over and shit. Anyway,
Yep. Vale says Taylor just did the most heroic things she's done in the entire story and is immediately tortured for it. You are super not wrong, but it's one of those things that like she she knowingly continued after receiving so much damage already, continued to put herself in harm's way. Like a lot of capes would be like, fuck, I can't even use my arm, I'm basically useless right now, I'm gonna go. But she was like, no, I mean, we'll see what I can do. We'll just kind of play it by ear.
Right, right, yeah. Yeah.
It's good. It's good. I'm very like just as a she makes a few questionable choices, I think, but overall, this arc makes me really impressed with Taylor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's good.
All right,
Let's move
shall we dive
on.
in?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you want to start it?
Sure. So beginning of 8.6, Taylor notes that the high from the adrenaline has worn off in equal measure, leaving her feeling at a complete low. The noise of the hospital didn't help, paired with Taylor being walled off from any contact, help, or information. Her worst nightmare, basically. She exerts all of her awareness and strength to keep steady breathing, trying to find any comfort amongst the pain from her injuries. The fear of potentially losing the use of her legs is top of her mind. In a slightly ableist but understandable thought, she muses about all the things she would lose: her life as a cape, sex with a boy, and missing her morning runs. Um, yeah, which, like,
Oh boy, Brian.
and I thought that I was like, yeah, I mean, that's how Taylor would put it. Like, she's gonna take the most like almost clinical approach to these things. But, like it does show that despite her general demeanor, that is still something like that part of her life is something she hasn't like closed off by any means. She still wants the normal human things
Look,
out of life.
we have read the book up to now. Taylor is all horned up all the fucking time.
Yeah, she's pretty horned up, I suppose. I mean, yeah, she's it. She is. She's just like bad at it.
Yeah. Uh, she's not. She's not good at getting what she wants.
No, not no. She is not. But if everyone would just listen to her, maybe she would be.
If she was just in control of everything in the world. Uh, so the shackles around her wrist make her suspicious of being arrested, breaking the truce, and being generally uncool move. Um, Oh, Vale says, I disagree. She just really likes making furniture. Yeah, 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 yeah. Vic
She just
says,
really
she's
likes it.
so annoying the natural way.
Yes, I should have written that down in our notes here because I totally that line felt fucking so cringe.
Vic says, Taylor thinks
Things
bottoming
bottoming is
is unnatural.
unnatural.
Oh, man.
Finally, everybody was fucking together. Um, yeah, that wouldn't have that been the dream.
The final line of
Uh,
the book. Anyway, so like and this is a quote from the book. Like Tattletale had said, there were rules, largely unspoken rules, but still more important than anything else in the Cape community. You didn't profit from an Endbringer attack. You didn't attack your nemesis or take advantage of undefended areas to steal. You didn't arrest a villain that came to help. And then, in addition to Taylor worried that she wouldn't receive treatment at all because of her villain status and higher priority elsewhere. Again, a pretty uncool move in a situation in which Taylor would have no recourse. Yeah.
yeah. She talks a lot about just sort of being like, look, if this goes bad, I'm fucked. What can I even do right now? I'm at their mercy, and that is her least favorite position to be in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, In trying to reposition herself to find any amount of relief, Taylor finds that she can only use her head, neck, and shoulders to adjust herself. She's straight up not having a good time right now. She likened the feeling to nightmares of being back in the classroom, waiting to be bullied by the bullies. Quote
Bullied by the
from the
bullies.
text. Bullied by the bullies. I know what I said. I said what I said. It was the idea that I was about to be put in a situation where something bad was about to happen, that it was inevitable, being helpless to do anything about it. She continues to reflect on the state of things. I've done the heroic thing, drawn Leviathan away from those in the shelter who were still alive. A part of me was proud of myself. The rest of me, faced with the idea of spending the rest of my life in a wheelchair, I felt like an idiot of epic proportions. I'd bought into the idea of the grand, noble gesture, and in the here and now, it felt like I had to convince myself that what I had done mattered. As sure as shit didn't seem to matter to anyone else. So
Yeah.
she is very much at a big like a big mental emotional low right now. In addition to being physically fucking mangled.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's certainly bad.
No, certainly not great.
Um, I wanted to note before I start reading the next little bit that I thought
Mm.
that Vic might have a funny way to describe this next character. A notably young nurse enters and begins filling out Taylor's chart, ignoring her all the while. Taylor pleads with her to talk. Taylor begins to explain how she's not a bad person despite being a villain, has wants and needs, friends and family. She's just like you, but with bugs. That's all.
Good read on
Pretty
that.
good,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
She asks about Tattletale once more, and the nurse finally responds, letting Taylor know that she specifically isn't supposed to talk to her due to previous incidents of capes suing hospitals to get one last payout before their cape careers are over. The nurse is firm about not giving Taylor answers about her condition. She ain't even qualified for that. Her only response to Tattletale's whereabouts is, "I'm sorry." Um, Naturally, Taylor doesn't know what to make of it. Dead? Injured? Sorry, I won't answer you.
Who
Um,
knows? It could be anything.
it could be any of those.
Vale had said the student nurse is so kind, and
Oh, so kind.
yeah,
So good.
it continues on. The nurse offers Taylor to use her cell phone to call her friend or dad, but thinking over her options, Taylor refused. She had no one she could call without revealing her identity or revealing someone else's. Even at this moment, she was too skeptical to accept the offer. Oh, and Vale said Taylor
Which is
has
so
been
sad.
dehumanized repeatedly and is trying to convince anyone she's just a person. I didn't have an issue with it. The gave me an odd look at the end of the chapter. I never figured out. Yeah, I'm not sure. Not the end of the
Um,
encounter. Yeah.
I do, yeah, I do note that a little bit. I totally agree, though. It is just a
Yeah.
series of Taylor being exactly that, dehumanized, and
Mm-hmm.
just being like, "Will someone fucking just acknowledge me for a second?" Um,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't have an issue with it either. I mean, I think it made total sense given her circumstances.
Yeah. Unlike most
Um,
nursing students, says Vic.
Ayo, got him. Where'd we go? Oh, okay. Uh, Here, you take us away.
Nope. It occurred to her that the offer might have been her one call, meaning she would be arrested, even though that makes no sense because why would it be this person?
Not how that works. I don't know why a random student nurse offering her cell phone, that would be like your one. No one's even like hanging out checking on that.
Also, in my experience, I don't know what it's like everywhere, but the whole one call thing isn't really exactly how it works. So, um,
You
uh,
are allowed more calls.
yeah. But she's got it all twisted. The nurse notes the red tag marking Taylor's room, though Taylor isn't sure what the tag means exactly. She thanks the nurse for the offer to use her phone and says, "With that kind of empathy, I'm sure you'll make a great nurse," which is nice, but kind of weird given the more direct circumstances. The nurse, or the more dire circumstances. I think both.
Yeah.
The circumstances directly around them. It's a very odd
Hmm.
thing to say in this moment. I think the nurse
Yeah,
seems to
yeah.
agree, but it does speak to Taylor's character at least. Listen,
Yeah. Like
she's concussed. I love that that's like
she is.
basically always my excuse after she gets the first concussion. I'm like, she never really stops getting bonked on the head perpetually. There's
Nope.
like a
Not
point
at all.
there's a point at which we're like, okay, she's not concussed anymore. But up until that like very specific point, I'm kinda like, I don't know, she's probably still concussed.
um Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I actually kind of thought it was a nice moment of Taylor. I'm like, damn, Taylor, like you're really going out of your way to be like a nice human being right now. Um,
I still think
but
it's like
yeah,
funny, like it's just such a weird.
it's very awkward. Like you can imagine that actually taking place, and the look on the nurse's face as she's about to leave, and it's like,
Ugh,
okay.
okay.
Vale says, I took it as Taylor being fantastically bad at social interaction. The effect of her injuries right now is so bad she doesn't dwell on it, embarrassed for a paragraph. Yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah. David, you got a little louder. Did you?
Oh, sorry, I was leaning real in close to the mic.
It's okay.
Um, to kill the time and give her something to focus on, Taylor starts a bug circus on her stomach, just in time for drum roll. It's Amy, aka Panacea. She enters the scene with a PRT uniform alongside her.
And I
The
recognize
first
that
thing.
this is not exactly when this image takes place, but yes.
Ba-ba-da-ba. Art change, art change. We're doing the art change.
But we'll continue to talk over the
Amy's.
thing.
Oh yeah. Amy's first words to Taylor is, "You're so creepy." You know that. But Amy too looks exhausted and is clearly in a hurry. Am I not seeing the art change, or am I just behind on the stream like an idiot? Yeah, that's all. Okay, cool. Dope. Love that art change.
Okay.
Amy asks for Taylor's permission to use her power on her. Naturally, Taylor is suspicious that she might get fucked up in all the ways Amy had threatened previously back at the bank. Amy explains the resources and time it would take to be healed the old natural way, comparing to the mere minutes it would take to let her use her power. She's basically like, just take the gamble and shut up. Because she's more or less like, you either trust me to do this or you don't. You know, it's up to you. I'm gonna tell you that, yeah, is it a possibility? Sure, you'll have to find out later. But I think Amy is really just kind of fucking with her a little bit, like more than anything, and just giving her a hard time because, you know, their history. But I don't think at this stage she has any intention of actually fucking with Taylor, especially not in this context, not given the whole Endbringer fight of it all. I think she, as a hero, and I say this knowing the irony behind it, but as a hero has, you know, a bit more of a moral compass than that. And yes, I know that's a loaded statement, so sorry. Some mad chat going on here.
Yeah, I was trying not to like laugh over your thing, so I held it in, but yes.
Okay, that has to be the official podcast music interlude for Art Change. William, I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and clip that from the audio.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely do that. It'll definitely happen.
Great.
Happening.
Good.
So the thing I was laughing at was Vic saying, sex the natural way, good. Healing the natural way, bad. Taylor's so fucking inconsistent. God. No morals.
Get it together. Vale says Amy purposefully antagonizes her by mentioning it and refusing to say she won't do those things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she does. She does.
Yeah. Greg said previously, I'm fine with Amy being short. She's probably been worked to the bone today, and she doesn't exactly like Taylor. Yeah, kind of that. I mean, I not only she's being short, and she's also being mad
petty. I think this is like the pettiest we have seen her so far.
She is, and it's one of those things where like
fixes. Yeah, I don't know. I think Amy did nothing wrong.
Yeah, she's definitely being hella petty, and I get from her perspective why she thinks that's a fine and good thing to do. But from Taylor's perspective, I don't think she clearly doesn't. She's joking the natural way. That's funny. She doesn't, she doesn't understand the full gravity of what Amy's talking about regarding the secrets Tattletale was dangling over them and all that.
And I have summarized this conversation into a dramatic reading from, the likes of David and I, and we will be reading with a slightly more serious tone the real lines, which there are very few of that I have taken, and in hopefully obvious different voice, the, same character, but just summarized in a dumb way.
Yes. I will
Playing.
be playing the part
Hmm.
of Amy, and
Maybe.
William. William will be Amy, maybe. William will be playing the part of Taylor, probably.
Hmm. Hmm. Um. So, if you want to start us off,
All right. Just agree so I can move on to other patients.
didn't you threaten me during the bank robbery?
Sue me, bitch.
What's wrong with you?
I'm going to really do my best to mess with your head. Mental torture is like the kind of I'm most mad about, but also I can do it because I'm good.
Are you though?
Is offended in Amy.
I wish I could see the world the way you do. Excellent compartmentalization into good and bad. I did things that were bad for what I thought were good reasons at the time. Despite everything, I still don't see myself as a bad person.
Then you're either ignorant, deluded, or you have a very twisted perspective.
Maybe.
Anyway, if you say you're so good, let me help you so I can get back to working on other patients.
Heal me with your powers. Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, it's a long conversation, and I thought that me uh, shittily writing out what they kind of say would be a lot faster than trying to, uh, you know, summarize every little thing.
yeah, exactly. Oh, Vale, thank you. I can hear the drama, emotion, tension in the scene from your reading. You should do the whole book. William, you want to do the whole book?
Yeah, we should
Do
read the whole
another
book.
fan audiobook?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and we'll do every scene, just you and I
And
back
we'll
and forth.
rewrite them so poorly.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. We'll just do Worm Abridged. Oh,
It'll
I
be
mean, I guess that
it'll be the
exists too, kind of.
truly bottom of the barrel. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mm, mm.
I'll just read the scene description here. Taylor has to tell Amy where her mask ends. Metaphor. Then Amy starts healing Taylor, which gives her instant relief at the first touch. Amy talks through
Oh,
several.
oh!
Oh, oh, oh,
She only
oh,
needs to get
oh.
touched by Amy a single time for all that.
uh, Amy talks through several severe injuries and some older but still noticeably bad stuff. Broken back, perforated organs, broken arm, brain, shoulder, left hand.
And those are
The
on two
healing
lists
hurts.
specifically because the first three are ones from today, and the brain, shoulder, left hand, those are
All
previous, and she
previous.
does not heal
Hmm.
those. She's like, fuck you,
Yeah,
Taylor.
yeah, which I can appreciate that. She's like, look, I'll help you for
I
the
don't
shit that
know.
you
I
got while
still think
helping
that's
people.
fucked.
I mean, as a doctor in a regular way, yes, you can't just outwardly ignore a patient. But in this context where it's like, I mean, I th-
Oh,
I
your
don't know. I
your
feel
nerve damage? I don't know.
sounds inconvenient,
Thing that
weird.
can't be healed by normal means? No. Well, you save
Hmm.
those people?
Well,
Eh.
yeah,
She doesn't
yeah.
earn
She needs to
one
save
left hand
time.
nerve damage thing? Come on. I think she gets one credit.
I know. Come on, get over it. She needs to save time. Proceeds to waste like 5 minutes bantering.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly. She's such a time waster. She's really got no you know, she's in it for the pettiness.
yeah, a little bit. And Taylor's kind of like feeding into it. Like, I don't know. Taylor does a lot more talking than I would have expected her to in that situation, also.
I think she is doing her best to try to navigate the situation, but she's just very
Hmm.
bad at it. She's not like,
Totally.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Um, the healing hurts, but it's really working. She only heals what happened in this fight in what I consider to be an incredibly petty move, said
Yeah,
William.
see, said me, yeah. Um, for the script,
Um,
and we have another little dramatic reading here.
yeah.
So yeah.
Here we go. You have to be lucid and fully mobile for the PRT, but I can't tell you or your friends why.
My friends, is Tattletale alive? Did you heal her?
I'll fucking tell you I didn't heal her.
You gotta tell me if you know something.
No.
Stop fucking with me. Real line.
This is what it was like on the other side of Tattletale at the bank robbery.
No, I. Uh,
You and Tattletale ruined my life. You don't even know.
I'm sorry.
I'm still not telling.
Hey, come back here.
Good luck with Arms Master.
Also, real line.
Real line. That one's a real line. The healing is over and Amy has left. Taylor wants to bug Amy with the roaches, but uses them to get the keys and makes her escape.
The reason I say it bug is because it's like, even if she attacked with 8 roaches, it's like, what are they gonna do? Like, fly
That's
around?
nothing.
I don't even know if roaches have like biters. I never heard about somebody getting bit by a roach.
Me.
They
either.
probably
Oh,
they
hell
probably
yeah.
do, but I just normally you hear about them getting squashed or like being big and gross.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just their existence is pain for everybody else. But past that, I don't think they do much.
Yeah. Vale
I mean,
says.
you'd be. Hmm?
Oh, I was just looking at the chat.
Mm.
Vale saying Taylor has an opportunity to handle social interaction well and doesn't manage it. Shock. 3.7 seconds after getting healed, time to escape. And then Greg said, "You gotta tell me if you're a cop." To the PRT officers, I guess.
A roach trying to force itself up your nose probably won't kill you, but Clockwalker can tell you how nice it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
touche. Fair enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see. There we are. Take us away.
The whole thing is slow and takes a lot of careful balance of time and stealth, using all her bug focus. It's the whole procedure with getting the cockroach lifted by the other cockroaches under the key ring and then muffling it as it hits the ground and this, that, and the other thing. It's almost like she's good with her power.
Weird.
Gross. Cringe. She feels the keys with bug feels and gets her cuffs off. She moves through an enclosure with a random cape with blood on his face, then an empty enclosure with bloodstains from a patient. But then, there she were, with people rushing to find her and shouts from same. Taylor realizes the red tag was because she was villain. She was partially handcuffed so this very thing wouldn't happen. Where she finds out that one of the wards was her main bully at school. Shadowstalker is Sophia Hess, because that's secretly the main bully. Emma's like her lackey.
Yeah. The real reveal. The real villain is here.
Real
the
deal.
real antagonist, I suppose. Yeah. Boy howdy. And what a reveal. We know that one of Taylor's bullies was a hero all along.
Vic says the heist scene will be so good in the live action, and her tit is out. Embarrassing. And I thought about like some of the scenes I thought about like was that in terms of like how they could do on a visual portrayal, and you could just like pan it so you don't see that.
Oh my god, for real. Wait, okay. Forgive me for a moment. Vic, are you just saying that about a hypothetical live action, or is that a thing? Is that a thing?
What? No, there's not going to be any. This
I
book has no adaptations.
A live action.
No, I don't even think I would want a live action. I just think of the Animorphs show.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, there's no way to do the VFX or something like this and make it not look shitty.
Yeah, Vic says there will never be a live action. Lol. Yeah.
We could do it, guys. All of us here. Let's do it.
Yeah. Greg says she's employed by the PRT. Hero's a stretch. Protectorate, rather.
Yeah, touche.
And Val had said live action they should replace the bugs who do Taylor's bidding into tiny Taylors to make it easier for the audience to see Taylor is in control.
Oh, I love that. I love that about them.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
We miss
Yeah,
out
for
on an
this.
injured Sophia just because her tit was out. We would have gotten the drawing if she had been fully clothed.
Damn it.
Damn you, Wildbow.
Damn it.
Again!
Every fucking time.
Although we did get a good
Um,
Sophia in Arc 6 on the bus. So,
oh, okay. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Final chapter thoughts on this one.
Yeah,
Um,
another
less action
good
packed.
one.
Another great one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think this is a case where, due to the circumstances, you're pretty much just hanging out in Taylor's head for the majority of it. And it's her, dealing with exactly what we would expect her to be dealing with, which is she's in fucking pain, she's scared, she's alone, all those things. Um, I love the reveal at the end of this chapter. I mean, it's great. It's something we haven't really encountered so much in the story thus far. I mean, like they've talked about, people with revealed identities or capes who just don't have a secret identity. But as far as within the gravity of our main characters, first unveiling of the mask.
Unveiling. Um,
Yeah.
Such a reveal. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like some people. I definitely did not guess it. I think that some people do. I've heard people say that
hmm
in their reviews. I didn't see it.
I
Um,
definitely didn't see it. I mean, knowing it in hindsight on my second read, you can
it's like,
start to
oh
read a
yeah,
little bit
I
more.
get it. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, yeah. If you know it, you can see some of the actions make sense, but
you don't
no,
get a lot
I
of
think it's
like
a nice
shadow
surprise.
stalker ness in the book up to now. You see her at the mall, and you see her
hmm
at or the Weymouth Shopping Center, rather. And you see her at the Forsberg Gallery fight.
Yep. You can see they note the personality similarities in various parts of the book, like just in terms of
Like the words
when
used.
yeah, yeah, like when I think it's Miss Militia is talking about how Shadow Stalker is having issues with like um what is it, like anger management or whatever the fuck, issues with authority and that kind of a thing. And then Sophia's actions at the mall, you can kind of get a sense for like, yeah, she's just like this aggressive fucking wild person all the time.
Right, right, right.
But unless you knew, you wouldn't really necessarily make that connection, I don't think.
Yeah.
Vale, I totally agree. These chapters put me in Taylor's mindset so perfectly. Yeah, these are some extremely Taylor chapters on the highs and lows of her, behavior. In battle, it's classic fucking Taylor battle stuff. She's very analytical, very thorough, very like, what's the word? I don't know. She just seems to do a really good job at like planning and taking action in the moment. But then when she is in circumstances like 8.6, where she is,
She's not good at
um,
waiting.
no, she's terrible at waiting. She's terrible about not knowing things. And of course the added stress of just like pain and heroes who she's had bad encounters with and all that stuff. Like
Yeah, I'm not
she
saying it's a
she
good
just feels.
situation. I just saying like she in particular, I think, is bad at waiting.
Yes, yes, she super is. Yeah, which is, also like shown when they find out about Diana and she or
Dinah.
Dinah. Yeah, and she isn't she upon hearing that, she immediately is like, "No, guys, what the fuck?" and doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to have a discussion. Just wants to act in the moment and immediately start figuring out how they're going to resolve that situation, which it's just classic Taylor stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's part of. I think it's part of her like, or the compartmentalization of like if she's doing something, she's not thinking about something else.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah,
Yeah, great set of chapters for sure.
yeah. I think we can move on to the character section.
Uh-huh.
Vale says, "Can you think of a time Taylor is patient? Definitely, but only later." Um,
Yep.
let me
Yep.
let
Agreed.
me think through real quick. She's patient in waiting so long to go out in costume for the first time, but I think that's her stalling, so it's different. Um, she's
Hmm.
patient. Let's think. Arc 2, definitely not a single scene where she's patient.
No,
Arc 3, not really. Arc 4,
she is not
no,
patient.
she's not patient.
She's just not till much later, and she kind of has to be.
Yeah. But she does get good at it later, I think. I have a
Yeah.
specific example in mind, but anyway. So for Taylor, I thought it was worth pulling the thing when she realized I'd either been torn in two or and couldn't feel the pain yet, or more likely, I'd been paralyzed from the waist down. Oh, not like I really should have expected any different. Neither case was much better than the other, as far as I was concerned. Yeah, she's got some views on being paralyzed from the waist down. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I see why people may think that way, but that's why I noted earlier. It's kind of like an ableist point of view,
for sure, for
a
sure.
little bit. Also, sorry if my cat's ridiculous fucking meow pollutes the stream from here on out. He's on a roll.
Mm-mm. It'll
Um,
be fine. Lyra walks in and out of the room, and I have to like open the door because if it's not closed, then it's not warm enough for her. But also, she's got to go in and out the door. Um,
she's got to lit, and she's gonna die if she doesn't. So I'm glad
exactly.
you're keeping on with that.
And Greg had said
Um,
something pretty good in the chat. Come on, she's clearly patient in this chapter. A patient of a hospital. Yeah.
she's literally a patient.
Um.
Um, doing a great job with that. Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
things to note for Taylor's character in this one. I mean, I think that line itself, well, speaks to her, I guess, opinions on that sort of thing, but also, again, it's like another instance of just her sort of real-time analysis of a situation, and like the observation always precedes like the reaction from her, which is really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, and uh, she's got a lot of good moments in like 8.5 where she does like she keeps advocating to like go back for someone or like
Hmm.
before she calls out that she knows this is in the previous week, but before she calls out that she knows Arms Master's like that she knows where Leviathan is, she calls out that Arms Master is down and that they need
Hmm.
medical attention, and then she like makes sure they say Parian, and
Yeah,
there's a lot going on. I think it's she does a lot of good stuff.
this yeah, and specific, and on the note of like her doing good stuff, like this whole fight has been an awesome opportunity. I mean, you know, awesome's a challenging word here, but it's been a great opportunity for her to do anything heroic. I mean, like since her whole adventures as a cape, that's all really she's wanted to do is more heroic leaning things, but not under the circumstances of the bureaucracy that actually doing heroic things usually allows for. So like an Endbringer fight where she gets not gets to, but she has to save people and just do the good thing, I think sits with her much better than a lot of the other things she does, at least up until this point.
Maybe she should have just joined New Wave right off the bat.
I know.
Kissed
Could have
Amy.
could have hung out with Photon Mom, kissed Amy.
Exactly.
Um yeah, no, just some good moments for Taylor in this batch.
Yeah, I don't have much more
Um,
to say about her, and unless you got something.
Vale says in the chat, she doesn't have a ton of life experience to have even a chance to build empathy for those sorts of things. Question mark. Um, I I don't know about that necessarily. I mean, like as someone who's like gone through the public school system or whatever, you'd hope she's had some exposure to people of varying circumstances and would hopefully have like found that empathy. But I mean, kids are also just not like teenagers and kids are just aren't historically the most empathetic beings anyway. So it maybe is a little bit of that, but it's also just I don't know her personality, I guess.
Yeah, it's a little column A, a little column B.
For sure. Shall we move on to Rachel?
Yeah. I thought that there was the significant moment of Rachel saving Taylor, and that we should go to that on screen. Um,
Oh yeah.
and then this is probably one of the lowest points in Rachel's life up to now, to lose the two dogs she's closest with, as well as six others that were probably the next six most important after Angelica. So,
Mm-hmm.
not
Um,
ideal.
no, not
And if
ideal.
I look
And
at the
I
picture
did
too closely, I will tear up, I bet.
it.
Like I did
It's a
before.
really rough moment. Um, oh yeah, I'm getting some chills even thinking about it. But it's really rough for Rachel. It also does show that like in moments like this when, for her all hope might seem to be lost, she does still hold someone like Taylor, as at least a part of the situation. Like given the sort of falling out between her and the underside between Taylor and the Undersiders, you would think like maybe Rachel's got bigger fish to fry, and she was always kind of one of the hardest to get through. But after them, doing the whole thing at the Taylor coming along to help Rachel with the with her dogs and everything, I think that formed enough of a bond for them to, um, for her to at least keep Taylor as a consideration in a situation like this, despite being the kind of person who otherwise probably wouldn't go out of her way to help a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Um.
Greg
Mm-hmm.
says, I like that it's a very personal loss compared to the names being clinically listed by the armbands. Totally. 100%.
Yeah, and the armband thing, it's only in three chapters, but it adds tons of texture to those chapters.
It really does. Yeah, because it kind of shows like what we even, it shows the urgency of what's going on in the fast pace because it's like, oh, we don't even have time to cut to that scene or to even have a moment to look at it. It's just, yep, that happened.
And then it's like contrasted a lot in this chapter specifically, 8.5, with the shelter scene where she's like, it doesn't call out for the civilians, and then like the
Right.
dogs, and then like the fact that without the armband, Taylor and Bitch were nearly left behind.
Right. Right. Um, and it's used in a pretty clever way for as a storytelling mechanism. Also, like I think Laser Dream is one where right before she goes down, she's in the midst of helping Taylor, and then just it cuts to another scene, and then just says Laser Dream down, and you're like, okay, we're moving on. Um, yeah, it
Right.
was just
Yeah, and like the impel and apotheosis where she's like, I guess
yep,
that was these two. It's just like,
yeah,
geez.
exactly. Um, yeah, just really really well done.
Yeah.
Um, Not a ton else to talk about with Rachel in these chapters. Anything else that comes to mind for you?
No, I mean, we kind of said it all during the summary, I think, because we talked a lot more
Yeah,
about 8.5. So,
yeah.
and then I'm gonna bring up the 8.1 image, because we're gonna talk about a couple of these fools. Lady Photon, her costume
Cool
sport.
teacher Amy.
Yeah. So I wanted to read the costume description here. Lady Photon's costume sported a starburst on her chest, with several of the lines extending around her body or down her legs, going from indigo to purple as it got further from the center. So we can't super clearly see her, but she is the furthest right character there. We
Hmm.
see a little bit there, and then she's upset because her husband was killed and then her son was killed. It's pretty. She's
Yeah.
not having a good day. Some would say.
Bummer summer.
Bummer
Yeah, not
summer.
not an not an ideal. situation for old Photon Mom.
Yeah, yeah. And then Laser Dream, a big chunk was pulled here from Vic. You could see the
Yeah.
family resemblance. They weren't supermodel good looking, but they were attractive people. Even with their hair wet and plastered to their heads and shoulders by the rain, both wore costumes with white base color and had heart shaped faces, full lips, and blonde hair. Her daughter had a stylized arrow pointing down and to her right on her chest, with half a dozen lines trailing behind it over the other shoulder, or over her left shoulder, one line zigzagging across the others. The entire design gradually faded from a ruby red to a magenta color, in the same way her mom's did. Similar rows of lines with zigzags overlapping them ran down her legs and arms. She didn't dye her hair in her color like her younger brother had, past tense, or were the tinted sunglasses, but she did wear a ruby red hairband over her wavy hair to ensure she always had a coquettish sweep of hair in place over one eye, and not to pull the magenta red white color scheme together, and to pull. More than anything else, though, the two of them had the look of people who had seen half their immediate family brutally and senselessly torn apart over the course of one terrible hour, as though they'd had their hearts torn from their chests and were somehow still standing. I'm a better flyer. I'm more likely to hurt that thing in a fight. She had morning breath, a strangely mundane thing. She'd likely been woken up at 6:30 in the morning by the sirens. Hadn't had time to brush her teeth or eat before coming here. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
some big
Says a lot.
big
Says a lot.
chunks, but yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of good details. Also, like I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff Wildbow does where it's like there's a thing, and in this book, it's never addressed directly why she like always has the thing over one eye, but well, one of her eyes was put out, so
Yep. Yep.
you know,
Um,
what are you
it's
gonna do?
it is an interesting detail to kind of almost dance around.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, just on a general note, Laser Dream was pretty fucking wildly helpful to Taylor in these chapters, and shockingly, I don't know, committed to helping Taylor, and you know, uh, even taking Taylor to the shelter and all that stuff. A lot of things that weren't necessarily an obligation for her, but you know, I guess that hero shit kicks in, and she thought it best to be helpful, I suppose. Um, but it's clearly like a big pain in her ass throughout the entire thing. Like when she's trying to carry both Taylor and Perry in, it seems to be a whole mess.
right. And also, like, we just to address the thing that's in this image, like we see not only were Shielder and Manpower killed, but Gallant has also been killed. No, sorry, actually, I'm wrong. Gallant was spoilies downed, and he dies in the hospital here. Um, so
Yeah,
so he in this scene is dead.
he's Gallant is no more in one way or another.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, Brandish, who
yeah.
we see here in the orange-ish costume on the adult side on the right. Um, I described she goes all out as a cape, has no special durability or healing, but runs to fight Leviathan in melee combat. She doesn't give a fuck.
It's just fucking rad. It's just
Yeah,
dope. Well done. A plus.
yeah. And then Amy, we got to talk about Amy from this chapter.
Yeah. I mean, I think we covered actually a good chunk of it, but we definitely see in Amy's arrival to the scene. Well, it sets some context for like obviously what Amy's main thing is, which is situations like these where she is just, you know, making basically taking care of the healing process for a lot of people, making all this go by much faster, using her power, which we get a little demonstration on how that works when she touches Taylor, and not only can she immediately like dampen pain and all of that stuff, but it takes her seemingly little to no time to have a full read on Taylor's, body, the state of things going on in there, and is even able to tell like the timeline of wounds and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
impressive as far as the power goes.
We
Um,
didn't really talk about it so much when I had pulled it out in the 8.6 thing, but like I really do think that there's like a double meaning to the moment when Taylor tells her like the mask goes down further, because it's like, I mean, I don't know, just obvious double meaning of she's like telling her a bunch of stuff this conversation about like, I actually think I've been good this whole time, like I've been doing the wrong things for the right reasons,
right.
like she's saying all this, and then that kind of wording gets, I don't know, it could just be a coincidence, but art.
It might be, but I mean, at the same time, you're definitely not wrong. I mean, she is trying to like level with Amy, on a much more personal, like human level, and it's kind of the same stuff she was trying to do with Armsmaster forever ago, but less urgent, I suppose. But she's kind of getting the same treatment in that it's like, yeah, but you're a villain, so I don't really give a shit about all that. Um, which fair, especially since I mean Amy sees Taylor as like someone who is directly tied with someone like Tattletale, who was a total piece of shit to Amy. Um, I don't know. It's interesting to see where Amy draws the boundaries of like, yeah, only partially healing Taylor and that kind of a thing.
You're
It
just
is really
deluded,
petty.
bug girl.
Sue me, bitch. Yeah, and also that she is kind of like my daddy's the president, so fuck
Yeah,
off.
she brings up Brandish being like a good lawyer, but it's like, for all you know, Brandish is dead in another one of these enclosures. I
Yep,
mean, maybe she's seen
yep.
her already, but maybe she hasn't. It seems like things have been so chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of goes unsaid, but people were teleported out of the fight who were downed and then come back and appear later, and it's like pretty clear to me that they were teleported to Amy to instantly be healed and be brought back to the battlefield.
I hadn't considered that, but yeah, that makes total and complete sense. They have to like cycle through
Because, like,
as
I
many people
think
as they
Ballistic
can.
gets hurt and then just is back. So,
I think you're probably right about that.
yeah. And then I brought up Browbeat, the artifact of the audiobook version still having him just down. And I, as I said before, I had always thought that it was pretty fucking cool from my perspective that he point blank stopped the thing at just the right moment and then maybe used his biokinesis to keep himself from getting totally deaded. But
Ooh,
no,
yeah.
we can't have
Yeah,
nice
yeah,
things because
kinda.
people were
No, we
bullying
cannot.
Wildbow, so we lose all the good stuff. Um,
Ooh, stupid fandom boy in Wildbow.
Browbeat
I just want
deceased.
bra-
BW8.
I just want Browbeat to live. BW8.
There we go. Um,
Very very sad.
yes. But moving on to Parian. You want to take it away for a little bit?
Yeah. We've got a quote here, from her here, or well, not from her. Fine,
About.
but we're leaving the doll kid here. Um, which is just mostly funny because, yeah, William, as you know, because Parian is older than Laser Dream, just one of those
Yeah.
people who looks perpetually like a child, pretty much, and the use of her power
She's
and
just short.
how she, yeah, she's just short. But the way she uses her power, I think a lot of people would immediately assume that's something more childish, I suppose. Even though it's what she got, and she's gonna someday she's gonna be a very middle-aged person still making
Mm-hmm.
giant doll monstrosities.
Of course, of course. It's the only thing you can
Mm-hmm.
do. Um,
Yep.
and then Leviathan, because this isn't the power section, all I pulled for him is he scampers back. This is the direct quote, but he scampered back as his sight was obscured yet again by one of Gru's blasts. But I just love that Leviathan, he scampers.
I love that he scampers. You know, on the note of Leviathan, I do think he seems to have a lot more like it's weird to say confidence because he's a fucking monster, but more confidence, I suppose, in like the larger outdoor group battles where he can just take out droves of people and have really big impacts. But in the more one-on-one situations, it's like shocking how many instances of like a one-on-one or small groups not getting totally obliterated, or at least like in the case of being in the shelter, we see a bunch of civilians go down, a couple capes go down for sure, but like the fact that Rachel and Taylor are able to just like be there next to him, in part taking part in the combat, and he doesn't just immediately fucking wipe them out. Taylor gets almost wiped out, um, but
Well,
I don't
remember,
know.
in all these other scenes, for all the people he does kill, there's still a bunch more that he doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's true. And a lot of people just downed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just really cool to see the different approaches to his fighting style, and like for being this being that can destroy droves of the city and destroy a whole coastline and all that stuff. Um, he's still, I don't know, he's still like he's still one man, he's still one guy,
Yeah.
and can be impacted in like a one-on-one setting pretty severely.
Yeah. He's in some ways bound by physics and in other ways not.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
He's more of a
He's
monster
more.
hobbyist than a professional, says Vale. Very good one.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, yeah, cool ass monster man.
You wanna read this one? I'm
Yeah,
just
sure.
one little kaiju, says Greg.
um, for powers knowledge and world building. Um, my powers range was almost double the usual, and I had zero clue as to why. Which is a quote from Taylor, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, which is interesting about how the powers work. You can see a lot of people sort of at the edge of their rope throughout these battles. Taylor being amongst them, and when there's just heightened conflict, you can see the powers kind of take on new form, and or at least heightened ability from their normal, kind of similar to just a general adrenaline rush. I think the powers also have a very similar
Well,
impact.
it's
I
unclear
mean,
at first, but in later on it becomes clear that the
yes,
thing that
yeah,
is causing the powers to increase is not like the danger of a situation. It's more of like it's just the user getting to the right like mindset that's closest to the trigger
mm-hmm,
event. So it's
yeah,
like the thing that's getting the extra range is that she feels trapped
trapped,
in a
walled
similar
in,
way
yeah,
to the way she did in the locker. So,
mm-hmm, yeah.
and probably a lot
And
of
we've kind of
different people, depending. Like, I bet Clock Blocker was able to do his thing because he was like, because his power went through the whole water echo, and I think he didn't touch Leviathan. He touched the water echo and was able to project through it.
right.
You know what I mean? And so his power was able to do that on such a large, unstoppable beast because like he was probably in more time mode more than he's ever been.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've got a good quote from the text here. Uh, the roads beneath us were damaged, shattered. When Leviathan had shifted the position of the storm sewers, he'd gone all out, and he'd gone a step further than just the storm sewer. He'd also torn up the water supply network for the city. The occasional pipes speared up between the slats in the sidewalk. Fire hydrants were dislodged, and the water that poured from these was barely a trickle now. That might have meant too much was leaking from the damaged pipes to give the water any pressure. As he'd beaten a path deeper into the city, he had found opportunities to do damage on the way. A police car had been thrown through the second story of a building. A half block later, as he'd rounded a corner, he had elected to go through the corner of a building, tearing out the supporting architecture. The structure had partially collapsed into the street.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Uh,
yeah, just some bananas examples of power right there.
Yeah, I'll read the next little block in a sec, which is essentially like just more of same, but it's really building up the way that the status quo is going to change over the next several arcs of the city being
Mm-hmm.
so like destroyed. But Vale had said twice the radius from 3 to 6 is huge considering it's a sphere, and that's like city blocks. Her normal
Mm-hmm.
radius is a tiny bit over an eighth of a mile to begin with. This means she has like a third of a mile um, sphere with her awareness control right now. It's just massive. Yeah, yeah. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm a little fuzzy on the exact numbers, but it is quite large because her normal area is, I think, quite effective. And then in this scenario,
Oh yeah. I mean
uh,
that's enormous range.
yeah,
And
um,
especially for a power that has so much like fine control. Like yeah, that's pretty wild.
yeah, yeah. But the next portion of that destruction talk is the area we were entering had been further from the shore, or from the heroes, with force fields, where the waves hadn't had their impact softened or diverted by the PR or PHQ's force field or the larger, heavier, blockier structures of the docks. Entire neighborhoods had been flattened, reduced to detritus that floated in muddy, murky waters. Larger buildings, what I suspected might have been part of the local college, were standing but badly damaged. Countless cars sat in the roads and parking lots with water pouring in through shattered windows. Yeah, so it's just like if you lived
Just the
here, all
scope.
your shit is wrecked.
Yeah, pretty much that. It doesn't matter like where you're at in the city, your shit is fucked.
Yeah.
Pretty
Um.
brutal.
Yeah, and then I thought
Um
you want to take this.
yeah. Yeah. Flechette fired one needle into the center of Leviathan's face, between each of his four eyes. It buried itself 3/4 deep, speared out of the back of his head. He reared back as if in slow motion, stumbled a little. His face pointed to the sky. He teetered. Yeah, no. Much as I'd like to be, there was no fucking way it was going to be that easy. Which, yeah, like Leviathan getting fucking jabbed through his brain, or whatever, if there's a brain in there, his head, and barely, barely is affected by it.
Yeah, well, and the thing is that he's been feigning injuries in the arms master portion of the fight, but for the most part, people don't know that. Only Taylor saw that, and so like
Right.
they just assume that he's really feeling the injuries still, and he like keeps being
Mm-hmm.
able to trick people because they don't have the information to
Right.
know that that's something he does. And like they say he's clever, but they don't say like he's feigning having pain. Like he says like he does bleed and he does feel pain, which
Mm-hmm.
first part true, second part false.
Yep.
Um
Yeah, well, and especially like during the whole Arms Master bit when he's like he's like talking to Leviathan as he's hacking and slashing, and he's like, "Haha, you feel that, you beast," and shit like that, where it's like, nah, dog, he's so fucking with you so hard right now.
yeah, and there is a possibility he feels pain and can just shrug it off or something, or can turn it off or something, but
Sure.
it just doesn't. Like I don't
Pain in
think
the
he
sense of
does.
like,
Like the
yeah, I
way
feel like
we
it's
feel
pain
it,
in the sense of awareness of an injury or damage, but not in that it, as most people, it's like a nagging, ongoing thing.
Yeah, yeah. Um. So I saw and sensed Leviathan leap from the water like a dolphin, cresting the waves, moving no less than 200 feet in the air toward the pair, lashing out with his after image in every direction. And I just thought that was really funny that he Zora
Like a
links out of
dolphin.
the woo. Yeah,
Like Free Willy, he leaps from the sea.
much as Hero Echo has done in the anyway.
I'll grab this next bit. A heroine in a brown and bronze bodysuit. She flew and loaded the ground, gathered fragments of rock and debris around her body like it was metal, and she was the magnet. Then went in, pummeling with fists gloved in pavement and concrete. Um,
And I just thought
when
that
this
power's
lady met,
badass.
Yeah, I'll read your comment here. When this lady messes up and Leviathan nearly gets Flechette, we get that nice moment of Trickster dipping back into the fight. To be followed in a bit by another great moment where he power combos with Velocity. Yeah, that shit was dope.
Greg
Super
says
dope.
it's the better
Uh,
version of Mush. Yeah.
hell
Um,
yeah.
and then
Oh
I
yeah, are
got
we
the
missing
quote
anything from
there.
chat? No. Okay.
The quote for when he does the team up.
Oh yeah. Do you want me to
Woo!
take that?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Some capes were climbing out of the water and onto the ruined buildings with the help of the more mobile capes. Velocity and Trickster were working in tandem, Velocity running atop the water surface to safe ground, Trickster swapping him for someone who was floundering. Rinse, repeat. Which I thought is such a fucking cool tactic. Just imagining, like, yeah, Velocity just not losing momentum and just constantly being like cycled back into that exact positioning is awesome.
Yeah, but rip Velocity, much like
Rip,
Strider, in the
rip
exact same scene,
velocity.
they both die.
Womp womp.
Wah. And then we got this Parian quote. Parian was gathering more cloth from the other side of a smashed display window, drawing it together into a crude quadruped shape, moving a series of needles and threads through the air in an uncanny unison that reminded me of my control over my spiders.
Mm-hmm.
Val says, rinse,
Super
repeat.
dope.
That's Leviathan's tactic.
Oh my god.
Um, so there was that pairing quote, but I also had seen one that I didn't pull. Where it's the um, where is this
Hmm.
tiger? It was the one about where the new thing stumbled into the fray.
Hmm.
Stumbled.
Would have been early. Would that be 8.4?
No, it's in this chapter. Here we go. So it's Perion was inflating the half-created shape in front
Hmm.
of her
Hmm.
so it could stumble into the fray. She turned her attention to repairing the tiger, and the new one I think was like a pig or something when it
Oh
resolved.
yeah.
But I just thought the way it's described, and I think a lot of them are like bipedal, even though they're like quadruped animals. Um, I
Very
just
very stuffed animal style.
yeah, I imagine them like the and I had said this while we were talking the scene in Akira where they're oh Vale has to run for dinner and catch the rest later. Bye Vale. Yeah, I
Bye,
made me
Val.
think of the scene in Akira where the uh teddy bear that's like a hallucination is like stumbling forward and it's like this giant colossal weird thing and it's like super uncanny and it's very clumsy and unable to work well. And that's what I was thinking
Right.
for these. And maybe I'm misremembering that scene, but creepy dolls, they're creepy.
Spooky, creepy. Yeah. I mean, I imagine, like, especially seeing it on such a colossal scale would be just unnerving, no matter how you look at it. Even if
Mm.
it was clearly like adorable and nice, but these would be monstrosities.
Well,
Not
there's
great.
also
Not
like
ideal.
we could think of like in Paprika, the giant doll in that. Like that's some scary
Yeah,
shit.
that's a good
And I mean,
comparison.
admittedly, it's because it has a scary face. But like, even if it didn't have a scary face, I think a giant doll maybe a little.
Still be weird.
It's a little weird.
A little
Um,
weird.
Next we're gonna talk about Skyon.
All Skyon, everyone's favorite.
Yeah, because he loves the sky. Um. No. So Scion, there was no impact as he landed, no great splash or rumble of earth. He walked, and then like I'm sort of taking a few different things and putting them together. He walked forward, and ripples extended from his footsteps, soared past us with some strange motive force. The ripple touched the wave, and the tower of water collapsed before it got halfway to us, dropping straight down. Liquid as far as the eye could see was being flattened out into a disquieting stillness by the ripples of Scion's footsteps, like a great pane of glass. And then the last one is I saw ripples and waves of Leviathan striking the ground wash past us. Saw again how the ripple of Scion's footsteps seemed to wipe out and override that disturbance, returning the water to a perfect flatness. Yeah, his
That would
stilling
be
power is
so
crazy.
Yeah, that would be so buck wild to witness, like in real time, just sort of that settling of the chaos. It's just so cool. Yeah, I think yeah, Scion walks on water. No parallels here. No siree. Yeah, not even a little bit. Um, yeah,
Well,
I
we all
mean,
know that Velocity was our Lord and Savior, and he died for our sins. Um, he was walking on water, killed saving others. He's clearly
yeah, it's
Velocity's our guy.
classic.
Um,
Uh,
we
Now,
don't know anything about
Scion.
him. We never really learned anything previously, and he's not there later. But he's clearly the main guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a whole, or like a really long book about him. So,
Mm-hmm.
Um, Scion, dope, love it, crazy.
Seeing him in
Very,
that fight after we had just been through like the most brutal 3 chapters was, pretty crazy the first time because it's like,
yeah.
even so Arms Master, like it looked like he was doing pretty well or whatever, but like Scion was just dominating that fight.
Oh, just tanking him. Well, and kind of on the note of, Greg's pointed out parallels. Like, if you had a character like Scion with all of this power and all of these different abilities, I think it would feel a little I don't know, a little copy paste, a very standard choice. But the additions of those kinds of details, like the ones you just read from, like the stilling power, I think is a really big one that sets him apart, and the way that he interacts with the environment really sets him apart because it more than anything just shows how other he is in comparison to every other fucking cape.
Right, and I feel like there's enough twists on his like power set when you know all the things he can do
Yeah,
that it's kind of like not really like Superman or anything. It's not. I
exactly.
can't pull out like a specific hero that Scion is like. He's just fucking powerful.
Yep, exactly that.
Yeah. Um because it's like you don't have to just make someone have the Superman power set to make them powerful. Like he has a totally like partially overlapping set, I guess, but it's just like its own thing.
Right,
And I
exactly.
do love that. But anyway, gold made of gold.
Made of gold. Gold man. Gold boy.
Doesn't care about Doge. Made of gold.
Don't care about Doge. You know, he has he's got a light beard, doesn't he? Like a
He's got a closely trimmed beard that never
yeah, yeah,
grows,
yeah, yeah. Always think that's an interesting. Like his visage is always an interesting choice to me.
and his face doesn't move. But somehow Taylor, a parahuman,
Mhm.
somehow can tell what he's feeling.
Somehow, yeah. Weird, huh? Curious how that might work.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. Great shit.
It's also like Leviathan in the I think 8.4. It's like she sensed that he was there before like a bug touched him or like she saw him or whatever. She just
Right.
had like a chill come over her. And it's like
Yeah, just like
she
the shift
knew,
of energy.
yeah, she knew he was in the area. Um,
Yeah,
so, yeah.
dope shit.
Oh, Taylor, listen to your instincts. Get out of there.
Sure. All I could think of is Peppy from Star Fox 64 saying, "Trust your instincts."
Good. So the audience participation question is: let's talk about the reveal at the end of 8.6.
Woo.
Um, and so we have one answer here from Vale, and possibly we'll get one from Greg. Um, but let's see here. The one from Vale is: the reveal is one of the most important parts of the story so far. It recontextualizes so much of the first 8 arcs. The realization that Taylor's trouble is all at the hands of a hero. There is both depth to the feeling of disgust and betrayal, and breadth to the implications and impact of it. The writing is sublime. It put me Completely in the headspace of Taylor, the quiet realization and shock of it all. I feel like this one scene could have an actual research paper written to analyze the impacts of it going forwards and backwards in the story, how much it crystallizes Taylor's worldview and direction from this point, how much it changes a reader's perspective, and how complex it really is, because Sophia is, after all, just a person with flaws and reasons for them as well. This chapter also focuses so much on the hero-villain label, just to add color to the scene. I love it. And then this one says, avoid this if 8.7 hasn't been read. So maybe I'll read this out next week as just a continuation of what Vale was saying.
Oh yeah.
Because I didn't pre-read it, so I don't really know what the context is, and I'm not gonna skim read it right this second. We'll just read it next week.
Yeah, but great summation there, Vale. A plus. Yeah, wholehearted agree on all accounts.
Let me see. I think it's great. I agree with everything here, I think. So, yeah. And then Greg said, even before you look down the hallway, you just know there's a murder clown down there. Yeah, and that's why Taylor's alive and a bunch of people are dead, is because Taylor knows when there's a murder clown.
That's the secret part of her power that doesn't feel really like related to the bugs, I guess, but she always knows about murder clowns. It's just kind of an added thing.
Yeah, and not everybody, not everybody can tell when there's a murder clown, so we just can't expect everyone to be alive.
No, I'm going to go ahead and update our character section on Taylor and just make note of the murder clown thing. I think that's an important thing to carry over for the next stream.
Yeah. I realized I had not come up with a question for the next chapters. What do you think is a fitting question that's not crazy spoilery for people who are kind of listening to this for the first time, but also encapsulates the next two chapters? You remember where it kind of ends the arc?
Yeah. I think it would be, especially before these next chapters, I'd like to hear what people think about, like, do you think Taylor is justified in her concern over like her current situation? Do you think do you agree with her perspective on being cuffed and the treatment she's receiving?
Oh, this will be after they've read 8.7 and 8.8.
So that I guess that will burst that bubble. Okay, not that. After 8.7.
What do you think of the Endbringer Memorial? Boom.
Right, yeah. No, that's great.
Nailed it. All right, so that will be the question, and I'm just going to dunk it in the thing before I even forget. Happening live on air. Dunks.
Coming at you live. What do you think of the Endbringer Memorial?
Yeah. Boom. Kaboom it. Yeah, so do you have anything you want to say before I start the music and read all the links?
Nah, man, just thank you all once again for allowing me to be on this lovely stream. Had a blast with these chapters. This whole arc totally slaps. So, yeah, hell yeah. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Well, I had a great time too. Let's re-listen to that song, and then Greg said, heck yeah, and so do I.
Yeah. Me, you know what? Thirded. Heck yeah.
Me fifth. The music used in this episode, it was, again, A Strong Force, the Ulgonsah Witches. I don't know what the name is referring to, but it's by CO.AG Music. Great source of music. They're on YouTube. Almost all their stuff is copyright free, and yeah. Greg says, the motion is seconded. The motion carries. But our Discord server can be found in the stream's description, as well as the YouTube channel description. And the author for the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. The full text is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. There is also a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. And so, I'm just going to say thank you again for being on the program, David, and goodbye, 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 goodbye. Bye, 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 bye.